So you're looking to move to Dunedin in 2023, which is one of the suburban areas for Tampa Bay area in Pinellas County. Well, in this video, I talk about the pro and cons of moving to and living in Dunedin. Let's have a look. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode of Orlando Living with Dee. And if this is your first time, please help us out. Press the thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. We bring you community videos all throughout Orlando, Greater Orlando, Tampa, and Tampa Bay areas. And today we're going to talk about the pro and cons of moving to Dunedin, which is one of the major cities, or the fifth largest city in Pinellas County, located right here in the Tampa Bay area. Now, guys, before I get into the pro and con of the city, please understand this is just my take. There is no right, there is no wrong. What really matters is what works for you and your family, and that is the main thing that I want you to be focusing on, because a pro to you could be a con to me. And talking about the pros, the very first pro of moving to and living in Dunedin is that it has a really thriving arts and cultural scene. You know, you have various galleries, art centers, and festivals. You know, the town actually hosts regular art walks, music events, and I'm doing this right outside the Dunedin Fine Arts Center, which offers classes and exhibitions. So if you are in the art and cultural thing, then this is a great place. And on top of that, it's just a small town. You have a small town charm. You know, it maintains its small town, and you're not very far from Tampa in that aspect. The historic downtown for Dunedin is fantastic. And if you haven't watched my video on Dunedin as a community where we talk about school, hospital, shopping, dining, real estate, and everything else, then please make sure to go ahead and do that. So now let's talk about the next pro of moving to and living in Dunedin. So one of the other pro of moving to and living in Dunedin is that it provides really good outdoor recreational facilities. And I'm standing in one such park today, and look at the scene behind me. You know, I have two little boys and they're full of energy, and I want to bring them to something like this. They go out, they do their thing. You know, they are just exploring, they're just running around, they're just getting rid of all that energy so that when they go home, they rest a little bit, eat something, and then they are easy to go to bed, and that makes the life a lot more easier. If you have little kids, I'm sure you will 100% agree with me. So having access to something like this in any of the town that you want to move to is really important, especially when you have two little kids that are full of energy. Now guys, you can only do so much when you go to the parks, because I know I've gone to parks with Disney or Universal, and the closest park is going to be just about an hour away, which is Busch Garden. Going to Universal and all the other places is going to be about close to 2 hours, and it's a lot more tiring and a lot more expensive. So doing something like this is way better in my personal opinion. You can also go down to the beaches, so it gives you a lot of opportunities to kind of enjoy the outdoor with the family. There are some parks that will give you the facility to have a small barbecue. You can also kind of get the cabana. You can rent out the cabana and throw a birthday party for your kids, or just have a little get together. And this is something that I personally like to do, rather than just going out to the parks and spending so much money. Once in a while is okay, but it's a costly affair. Now let's talk about the next pro of moving to and living in Dunedin. So one of the other pro of moving to and living in Dunedin is that of its location. You know, it's located right along the Gulf Coast of Florida, offering beautiful beaches, waterfront views, and a lot of activities that you could do on the water, such as boating, fishing, and swimming. On top of that, the city prides itself on the Scottish heritage. You know, it embraces the Scottish heritage. There is an annual Highland Games and Festival with Scottish theme, and as a matter of fact, Dunedin is actually the name for Edinburgh, which is the capital of Scotland. Now that the pro is done, let's talk about the cons of moving to and living in Dunedin. So one of the main cons of moving to and living in Dunedin is related to its location. You know how I talked about its location being close to the coastal area. You can go to the beaches, do a lot of water things, but At the same token, it's also a con because you're going to be very prone to the hurricane issues. You know, you're right in the middle of the hurricane, so the flooding and a lot of wind and water is going to be something that you would have to put up with. If you were in Orlando, which is a lot further out, then it may not be such a big deal. So that is something to keep in mind, and that's why I always say that the pro and the con is just my take on it. It really matters on what works for you and your family. So now let's talk about the next con of moving to and living in Dunedin. So one of the other cons of moving to and living in Dunedin is the job opportunities that exist in the city of Dunedin. There's not a lot of high-paying jobs. Most of the jobs are related to tourist industry, you know, the food industry, and most of the major high-paying jobs are actually going to be in more of a metropolitan Tampa area. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, there is a lot of people that actually work in Tampa, but then they actually live in Dunedin because of the small town charm, and that is something that a lot of people like, but it really depends upon your situation. Now let's talk about the last con of moving to and living in Dunedin. So one of the other cons of moving to and living in Dunedin is that it's a small town charm. It does attract a lot of tourists and visitors from all over the world, especially during the winter time. You're very close to the Clearwater Beach and other beaches that Tampa has to offer. And during that time, the traffic could be a little bit of an issue because, you know, with tourists, we always know what they do. They are like going down, they have the right indicator, but then they're turning left. Well, I live in Orlando, so I see that all the time, but that is something to keep in mind. And what I also believe is that when you decide to move to any part of Florida, the hot and humid summers, I mean, like, I am literally sweating over here, and it's just, you know, something to keep in mind. So with the weather that we have, the bugs and the wildlife and everything else, so that's all going to be something to keep in mind. So this is just my take on pro and con. And if you are looking to buy a brand new home anywhere in Central Florida and Tampa Bay area, make sure to check us out, Orlando Home Show. That's where I bring you 8+ videos. So now that we are TikToking and Instagramming, make sure to check us out. My handle is @DGupta Orlando. And until the next community video, thank you for watching. Bye for now.